And that sort of prepares our space, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. And I would appreciate it if, where was I while you were coming in here? I was downstairs in the room where people meditate. And that was my preparation for being here with you. And I would hope that you would do the same when you come in and find your seat. Instead of having conversation, get into that space. And it'll make such a difference in the way in which we'll be able to deal with whatever we're going to deal with, because it's going to be on another plane than the plane on which we usually do things. And first, let me say something to Naropa, how grateful I am for the home that I've had here. A lot of things that people who grow up in one tradition and are supposed to be leaders in that tradition don't often get a chance to play in a field that isn't quite the one of their tradition. To have dialogue with people who are in Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam, and people who are looking for the means by which a person becomes transformed and reaches to the infinite. It is such a wonderful opportunity to have this home here. When I go back to my education, I envy the students who come here, because they not only are learning information and ideas, but they're also learning how to use. In other words, many other universities will be teaching things about all kinds of religion, and even about meditation, But I often complain to my colleagues here at Temple University that it isn't fair that the people in the physical sciences should have labs, and we who are in the spiritual sciences don't have labs. And if you don't have a lab, you don't know how to do it. Then you only know the ideas of it. And so I'm very happy to be in this environment, and I wish it well, that it should prosper and grow. I'm coming around to my fourth score. The first 20, you grow up. The second 20, you study to be able to do the work in the world. You work, you build a family, and that's how you get into through the second score. And the third score, you do what are you going to do when you grow up, So that's sort of from 40 to 60. And I'm looking back a little bit and see that the fourth score was one of having to do with harvesting and legacy. And I do hope that I could borrow from Abe Lincoln 80. So that might continue. I felt that there are some things that, how would I say, people have not only play hobbies, that's to say, hobbies that they have on the physical plane, people also have spiritual hobbies. I think bird watching is in that category, music is in that category, and for me, a number of the things that I want to share with you have been sort of my spiritual hobbies. And one of them has been translation. Translation means to me a thing of bridging, because I think that's what I've been mostly trying to do. Bridge between the past and the present, and the present and the future. Bridge between different kinds of religious past, languages, and translating is one of those wonderful hobbies that I have. It's all right. You know what? It's off and on like everything else. it just keeps on reminding us that even technology is something that will pass someday. It's impermanent. All right. What is it about Psalms that has intrigued me? You see, from the age of 17, I kept on saying Tehillim. If you look at that word, Psalms in Hebrew is Tehillim. The word is related to Hallel and Hallelujah. It has something to do with offering praise. But most people, you know, when we look at translations of the Psalms, we often think they're so boring. You know, sometimes we need them if you have a funeral. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You know, and you want to get through the valley of the shadow of death as fast as you can. Get to goodness and mercy. Well, there's something about the Psalms that has given me a way in which to express myself vis-a-vis God. And most of us are very mute, you know, if it goes by where we are in our soul wants to very much. And what's the best way in which we can do that? Do we have words for it? Do we have, what can we do about that? So music is of course something like this, and singing and calling out. And the Arabic translation for the book of Psalms is Mazmura, which means songs. And so you get a sense of that there are all kinds of songs. One song, and I will read it to you a little bit later, I translated, this is King David's Blues. Because it really has that feel to it. By the way, that booklet with the translations of the Psalms is available at the bookstore downstairs. So if you're interested in them, you can go to Ralph and get a copy of that. On the Jewish side, Psalms have been, how would I say, the surefire method. To the point that at one situation when Jerusalem was under siege, an older lady walked around the streets and says, "Don't rely on miracles, recite the Psalms." Do you understand? The point was that if you don't leave it up just to God alone, you have to bug him about it, you know? And the way in which you can best do that is by reciting the Psalms. So that's in Judaism. And when you get to a monastery, nowadays I miss some of the Gregorian chant. Deus in adiutorium eum intende. Those early hours in the morning, matins, lauds, when the monks would gather and they would chant to one another. And of course, where is the melody from? Because that has been so strong within the Catholic tradition that the priest is required to do the daily office. And the office contains 7 sections of the Psalms, because in the book of Psalms it says, 7 times a day have I praised you. So, from matins and through the canonical hours and vespers and compline, the day is filled with Psalms. Where did they get the melodies from? There's a great likelihood that the Gregorian chant melodies are taken yet from the time of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, because there were some Jewish people who had lived on the other side of the Tiber, where the catacombs are, and there they had services in which they kept on the melodies that they got from the sacred temple. And to this day, Italian Jews use a melody for reciting the Psalms which is identical with the 5th mode of Gregorian chant. wanted you to hear that because so often you find people who like to stress the differences and they don't stress enough the samenesses that are there and what can and is shared. And so this is really wonderful. Well, everybody knows the 23rd Psalm. So let's see if we can recite it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He leadeth me beside the still waters. I think we lost something here. All right. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I honor what the people who did the translation for King James did. They wanted to make sure that the most possibly noble expression of the Hebrew should come through in their English. Martin Luther, when he began to translate the Psalms, that was the first thing he did into German. He wrote, "It is so hard to be able to make the German cuckoo sing with the voice of the Hebrew nightingale." So you got a sense of because the language and what's behind the language, and every language carries with itself a lot of cognitive mass. So I'm going to just give you a run through. When you have a song of David, it always keeps saying, there was a time when this person was in that situation, and after he got through the difficulty that he had, that's the song he made. It's not likely that he sat down and wrote out, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." I think he was wanting a little bit. And then he didn't want anymore because he got food or whatever he needed. Then he said, the Lord is my shepherd, you know. But that was an experience which preceded the thing. There's Psalm 34, interesting psalm. The heading of the psalm is, "This is the song that David sang after he had played a crazy man in front of Avimelech, the king of the Philistines, who then kicked him out and he went his way." Okay. So you have a story here, and you can imagine whether this guy David has a price on his head, you know, there's a contract out to get him. They bring him to the king of the Philistines. The king of the Philistines would be glad. Bring him in, and what should King David do? He doesn't know whether he's going to get out of here alive. But one time he had asked God, so the Midrash tells, "Why did you create crazy people?" And he remembered the question, and he said, "Let me play crazy." And so he comes in, drooling from his mouth, doing all kinds of stupid stuff, and the king says there's such a wonderful phrase in Hebrew, "Chaser mishugayim ani?" Do I like crazy people? Out with it, you know? And on his way out, he hides in some place, and he goes through this thing, "You're adorable, you're beautiful." And how does he do that? He does that, the first sentence I'm going to do an aleph, "Avarcha et Adonai b'chol eit." The second one he's going to do in a bit, "B'chol yom," you know, and "Gadlu Adonai iti" for the gimel. And so he goes through the whole alphabet, so he shouldn't forget that wonderful song he's making up to God right now for having gotten him out of his troubles, okay? So if you can read a psalm and ask yourself, what was, and the German professors like to use that word, what was the Sitz im Leben? What was that thing in life, that condition, the situation in which he found himself? And then out of that, you get such another understanding and such another feeling. You must remember that some people say there's so much paranoia in the Psalms And I just would like to remind you that some, even paranoiacs have real enemies, you know. King David, as we know from history, had quite a number of enemies. But instead of turning to cunning, he turned to God. And I'll read some of these for you. So when you say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, you figure there was some wanting and then he got it. The word that he uses is because he knew shepherding. I had a friend who said, I can't call God by the word father. Why? Because my father is an SOB, abused me. Okay? So don't. And then he became a father himself. And as he was holding his baby in his hand, he said, now we can call God a father. Do you see, David is a shepherd, and he knows what it means to look around and see, did the sheep get enough water? Is this little lamb being bullied by another, you know? And so he gets that sense of providence that he can now say, the Lord is my shepherd. And then he goes and talks about the still waters, and it says, he restoreth my soul. And I always get this funny image, sort of a building that the pigeons had done stuff on, and someone comes with steam cleaning, you know, to restore the building. You know, you restore. Martin Luther takes this word from the Hebrew, which is related to the word wild. And he says, erquickt meine Seele. He quickens my soul, not restores my soul. I'm getting so excited about Harry. It is so delicious. I want to go to a lab with you. I'll read you a psalm, and I'll read it slowly. And I will be doing the audio, and you have to do the inner video, okay? I will read it slow. And when I say a phrase, get yourself to that place where that phrase is true also for you. So at one point I'm going to read, Lord, thou hast scanned me. Now can you imagine the CAT scan that goes through my entire moral life at this point, okay? So I'm going to read these things slowly so that you can experience them. This is the psalm with which the late Reverend Howard Thurman initiated me into his lab of spiritual disciplines and resources. And I've been in love with that psalm ever. Because when I had read it before in Hebrew, I had read it to get through and not to get in. I will use the name Yah, which is part of what people hear as Jehova, instead of Lord. Lord means caller of the shots, you know, a boss. And in that sense, the name is the attribute of compassion. So if you can see divine compassion in that name, that's what that name stands for, okay? All right, I'll start. Yah, you have scanned me. And discerned me. You know when I'm relaxed or agitated. You comprehend my fantasies. You design my conduct and my repose. You direct my tasks so I can manage. Before my mouth opens, you know what I'm about to say. You have shaped my past and my future. Your hand gently on my shoulder. All this awes my awareness. It's beyond my skill to fathom. Where to can I withdraw from your spirit, flee from facing you? If I would mount up to heaven, there are you. If I make my bed in hell, you are there too. Soaring on the wings of the dawn to find shelter in the setting sun, it would be your hand that would carry me, your right hand holding me safe. If I want to find oblivion in darkness, if I want to trade light for darkness, to you, it still will not be dark. Night is as bright as day for you. In your sight, dark and light, the same. You have designed my innards. You have shaped me in my mother's womb. I'm overcome with thanks at your awesome wonders, your astonishing works of which my soul is aware. My essence is not hidden from you. You who have made me in concealment, who have knitted me beneath the surface. Your eyes have seen me as an embryo. My days are all inscribed in your ledger. Days not yet shaped, yet each one of them counted. How precious are your stirrings in me, O God. How powerful their impact. I can't number them beyond all sand grains. When I emerge from my reflection, I'm still with you. God, I open myself to your scrutiny. Know what is in my heart, examine and know my longings. See and remove any resistance to you from me. And guide me in the way that serves your intent for our earth. Amen. It's so wonderful to read translations that other people have made. Because each time I read somebody else's translation, I get to understand something I didn't understand in my own. I'm just trying. Norman Singer, I think, a Zen master, has done a translation. Pardon? Fisher. Thank you. Norman Fisher has done this wonderful translation of the Psalms. And when I read it, or the one by, he did Job, he did Stephen Mitchell, each time I find something new, and it's like, you want to have a nice hobby? One of the nice spiritual hobbies is like kids when they go into the parents' closet and they try on all the clothes. Right. Yeah? Did you ever do that? Go up in the attic and take out the stuff and stand in front of the mirror and so on and so forth. So there is a wonderful pretend that we can do when we go into the person and his story. I'll read you another psalm, pretending to be Moses, okay? In the late 80s, we took a trip. No, it was earlier, in the early 80s. We took a trip to the Sinai. And there was a remarkable meeting because Japanese Zen and Shinto priests had come. A Native American elder had come. Muslims, Christians, all kinds of denominations of Christians were there, and all kinds of Jews. And it was so amazing for all of us to get together at the foot of the mountain and then to climb up the mountain, begin the climb at 1 o'clock in the morning so that we could be there at the sunrise over the mountains of Moab. And you can imagine how amazing this was. The sun is halfway over the horizon and the Japanese go, "Banzai!" And the Native American is offering prayers and using the eagle feathers to waft the smoke. And everybody is doing their stuff. And I was reciting the Psalm 90 because it is that kind of sense that you get of the loneliness of the teacher, of the leader. You know? He does everything for everyone and then wonders, did I really do anything? Was it worth it? And all the disappointments and so on. And yet, he has a vital relationship with God. So Moses, a God's man at prayer. That's the heading for Psalm 90. Master, you are our home each time we are born again. You are our home each time we are born again. Before mountains emerged, before earth and space were born, from cosmos to cosmos, you are God. You bring us, poor weak ones, to death's door, and you urge us, return Adam's kin. In your gaze, a millennium is as yesterday gone, like a watch in the night. Oh, you flooded us with sleep. Morning had us in wilted hay, blossoming with dawn only to change at dusk, all wilted and dry. Your wrath makes us panic, your anger confuses us. For all our crooked places are open to your gaze. Our hidden stirrings are visible to your inner light. We note all our days fleeing from your ire. Our years are fading like a fleeting thought. Our lifespan's days are 70 years, and if hardy 80 years. The gain is struggle and offense. Soon we are chopped down, dispersed, gone. Who can estimate the extent of your awe? It paralyzes us. Make us aware enough to treasure our days. Make us aware enough to treasure our days. A wise heart brings vision. How long it seems, relent, I am in your service. Become reconciled with me. Gladden us no less than you made us suffer those years we endured such harm. Gladden us no less than you made us suffer. Oh, that we could see your design clearly, your grandeur in our children, that we could see your grandeur in our children. May your kindly presence, Lord, be ever pleasant for us. May our hands' efforts achieve their aim. Please let our efforts result in good. Amen. When you hear a psalm like this, if he is supposed to be the archetypal model of where you can get to in the service of God, it doesn't look so good. But I want to tell you, this is what's so wonderful about those poems, those psalms. They were not written, how would I put it, as advertisements. They're not jingles advertisements for God. I'll read you one that gets close to it, but it comes from gratefulness, it comes from the excitement over things. But when I go to that place which is prior to my reason, prior to that place inside of my head, in which I create the presentation of myself. Do you know what I mean? Could you imagine I go behind my face, way behind my face, and then I see what kind of a face I'm making from the inside. So when I go to that place, which is not what I want to advertise, but it's the place where I'm at home with my fears, my anger, my insecurity, my richness, and my ecstasy, all these are in there, my inner garden. Then I'm not going to make linear sense. In one moment I'm going to say, you made us suffer, make us feel good for a while, okay? And the other sentence I say, oh, I wish that our kinderlach would get to love you too, that our children would be with you. Do you get that feeling that goes through? Because it's for real, and that's the reason why the Book of Psalms has helped so many people. Just hold on, I'm going to see. I'm fighting with the clock, so I'm going to see how we're going to do this. All right. The instructions are always so nice and clear. This one says, conductor, accompany on the psaltery. So apparently they had this kind of instrument like a cantalina, most likely tuned to a pentatonic chord, and so on. Yah, our master, how mighty is your fame all over earth. Such glory you radiate from the heavens. Your strength is founded in babes and toddlers' first speech. It can overcome all your vengeful foes. I'm awed when I see your skies, your handiwork, and fingerprints. The moon. Did you see the moon last night, this morning? A sliver, so beautiful. The moon and the stars you have arranged. What are we who must die that you would be mindful of us? What is a human being that you should take notice? Yet, you're only a touch less than divine. You crowned us with glorious splendor. You crowned us. I like that, It's like when you get into the crown chakra, you feel really, despite the fact that you're mortal, you're in a place, oh wow, yeah? So you crowned us with glorious splendor. You set us to manage all that you designed, all of it. You have made our responsibility. You set us to manage, to steward all that you designed, all of it. You have made our responsibility. Flocks, herds, all of them, as well as the animals of the wild, birds of sky, fish of sea who traject the oceans. Yah, our Master, how splendid is your name in all this world. There are times in the morning when I go take a walk, we go take a walk around Wheelie Lake, and 4 or 5 balloons are up in the air, and the geese are there, and the air is clear, and the mountain is mirrored in the water, you know. Sometimes I have a feeling that the best thing that I can do, you know, is appreciate. Not even express my appreciation, just appreciate. But you know what I like to do? When I get into appreciating, I want to open up the skylight in my head and say, God, look inside, see how I appreciate? So when I was a kid, a baby, young toddler, I was being fed, eat a spoon for Papa, you know, eat a spoon for Mama, you know. So in this case, I can say appreciate it for God, you know, just open up the skylight and let it go through. Sometimes when you are in this appreciation, then you go away and you look at yourself and you say, am I really who I need to be? So here's another song, David's song. Yah, who may be at home in your tent? Who may be at home in your tent? Who may find sanctuary on your sacred mountain? One who strives with wholeness, acts with fairness, whose heart and words speak with honesty, not given to gossip, not hurting others, not shifting blame on others, wary of his own motives. He honors those who are respectful of God. She will not stoop to lie when she swears, even if it causes her loss. He lends his money interest-free, won't accept a bribe to convict the innocent. One who acts this way will never waver. And I want to tell you something. I feel an ache in my heart when I say one who acts in this way will never make it to Congress. You know, how much I would want such a psalm, not just to be read by the chaplain of the Senate, but to be a way of vetting the people, how well they fit that, you know. So there is that element that keeps us straight. It says, how do I behave? I have really enjoyed a great deal and celebrated the divine in my life, but what does that demand of me? Sometimes I feel like a dirty rag. King David had just mated with Bathsheba and had sent her husband to war to get killed. And Nathan the prophet comes and says to him, I want to tell you about something that happened in town. I'm really angry about it. He says, what happened? He says, there was this rich man, he wanted to make a party, and he decided that he wanted to have a nice sheep slaughtered for the party to feed his guests. So he went to the poor man's stable and stole a sheep from him and used this for the party. What should happen to that guy? King David didn't get it, you know? So he said, well, he really deserves to die. This is terrible. So he said, well, the sheep wasn't a sheep, it was a woman. And the man with the party was you. And you can imagine, first of all, that someone can come up to a king and tell him like this in the face, you know? I wish we had our prophets today who would be able to get at least across the lawn. in both administrations. So, but here, you have a situation where he really gets it. He really gets it. And so he says, but it says, Lam naseach mizmor David bevo elav Natan hanavi kasher Baal bat sheva. And it gives the instructions. So I translated like this: Maestro, play the David Blues. But listen to it from the place where you have experienced guilt and shame. And you will see how true that is for you. Please be gracious to me, God. Be kind to me. With your great compassion, erase my guilt. I know I was an offender. My sin stares me in the face. I failed you alone. What you consider evil, I have done. I admit that you are right. Your judgment is just. Don't judge me harshly. In the heat of passion, my mother conceived me. Was I not fashioned in lust? In my kidneys, I feel your scrutiny. You inform me in hidden thoughts. Please, scour me with hyssop, and I will come clean. Scrub me, and I will be as white as snow. Let me hear joy and glee again, so that bones in me that still hurt from your rebuke will be able to delight again. Turn your face from my sins. Do wipe out all my wrongdoings, God. Create in me a clean heart. Renew in me a sensitive spirit. Don't push me away from you. Don't deprive me of your Holy Spirit. Let me regain the joy I felt when you helped me. Support me in an attitude of generosity. Let me teach the rebellions what your way is about. Those who fail at virtue, I will bring back to you. My caring God, save me from blood guilt. Master, give me back my power to speak to you. My very tongue is eager to sing of your fairness. Then your praise will flow from my mouth with ease. If you really wanted sacrifices, I would gladly bring them. But it's not a burnt offering that you want from me. Instead, you favor my humbled spirit, God, my broken heart's regret. You will not despise. As for Zion, pour out your goodwill, raise up Jerusalem's buildings. In that setting, I will offer thanksgiving. Amen. So you get a sense here again how a person can express what's in them, and when you do it, not just, how would I say, reading it with the eyes, because it is never good to read that only with the eyes. It has to be said, you know, otherwise the heart stays mute. It is when you use your voice that the prayer works. All right, I still have time for one more. This is the Colorado song. Like some alpine music for that, you know. Da, 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 something like that. All right. Bless Yah, breath of mine. Yah, my God, you are so vast and great, all veiled in pride and glory. You are wrapped in light. The sky you spread like a sheet. Your upper chambers are water-roofed. As you bestride clouds, you waft on wings of wind. The breezes you send are your aids. Blazing flames are your helpers. You founded earth so sound to outlast time itself. The abyss you covered like a mantle. Water rests on mountains. You sound a roar and they flee. Your thunder makes them shake. Mountains high and valleys low, there are places they assume. You set them limits they cannot pass, never again to flood the land. Springs flow into brooks and snake between the mountains. All the while the field drink there, the beasts slake there their thirst. By their shores dwell birds that soar, sounding calls through leaves and reeds. You drench the hills from your upper chambers, from your hands' produce. The earth is filled. You grow fodder for the tame beast and herbs with human labor to bring forth bread from earth. The Hebrew is hamotzi lechem min haaretz, okay? And wine to delight the sad ones, and oil that softens skin, and bread that sustains the weak. Even the trees you sate with sap, the cedars you planted on the Lebanon. There birds find a nesting, there storks find homes to rest. Antelopes bound on the heights, marmots hide behind the rocks. The moon pulls tides and seasons. The sun knows where to set. You darken dusk to night, the forest nightlife stirs. The big cats go for prey, praying God for their food. They return at the rising of the sun to crouch once more in lairs, while humans go out to work to their toil up to the night. How many things you do, so wisely are they made, all earth at your command. This vast sea, beyond all grasp, countless are the creatures in her, the tiny ones and giant whales. There go stately ships, this Leviathan you shape, to play and romp in the ocean. They all rely on your care, you feed them well each time. You give to them and they take it, your hand's gift, satisfy them well. You hide your face, they panic. You recall their breaths, they die, they return to their dust. You send your spirit and they're recreated, so too you renew life on earth. Let your glory fill time and space. Take joy, O Yah, in what you do. Let my talking give you joy. I'm so happy, my God. I live your song. I'm your tune. I wish no sin exist on earth, that all wickedness were gone. My soul, bless that Yah. My breath, bless that Yah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, you get a sense of that childlike appreciation, that sense of, I still can be astonished, you know? I'm still not so blasé. There is still something that says to me, oh wow, you know? And